So he hired me strictly on the strength of that was his favorite record from the previous year. And I'm up in Longview Farms doing Freeze Frame, the following record, and the girl comes in, one of the girls who answers the phones, comes into the control room and says, Mutt Lange's on the phone for you. I was like, yeah, right. Mutt Lange's on the phone. This is after Back in Black, right? It's like, God's on the phone for you. Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, right, Mutt Lange's on the phone for me. Yeah, right. No, really, Mutt Lange's on the phone for you. And I'm like, you must be joking me, But she's not, and he's calling me up and says, hey, can you come to France? And I've started this record, but the guy who's started it only booked 3 months out for himself, and we're almost done with basic tracks. And this is like 24 track, and I think when I got there, we were still doing, no vocals were done yet, no leads were done yet, just bass, drums, and rhythms had taken 3 months to do. Using a mobile unit out of London, and we were in the Rolling Stones rehearsal studio in Paris. So we were sitting on a truck outside of this huge stone room in Paris all day and all night, and that's where that record was made. And then we went to a little studio in Paris to do the vocals. And I remember Mutt just having Brian Johnson sing lines over and over and over and over. And it was analog, so I'm punching, and punching words, punching syllables. We would punch S's, right, Bob? But like now, like Pro Tools is absolutely got to be Mutt's friend, because you don't have, it's non-destructive, but it was destructive. I mean, when I was on the 10th time of punching an S, wow. I would just go, on the past 9 times have worked. Oh, God, I hope it works this time, because it would be because that, and you would have to go because punch out, and you go in 30 IPS. So it was, How
does that affect you after like a couple of days of that kind of like...
stressed out, totally stressed out. But he was not, he really wasn't as bad as I imagined, and only Bob Bullock could tell us. He was definitely not as bad, I would say, as bad as I have heard stories of him getting. Later on when he got further into, like Def Leppard time and all that, that's when things, I believe, I went to record one Def Leppard, Hysteria, and he wasn't on that record initially, but we had the multi-tracks of Pyromania in the control room, and at that time, Pyromania, it was the most awesome thing. He would take all the vocals, let's say it was 48 tracks of backing vocals on, let's say, Photograph. I mean, I'm not kidding, like 48 tracks. He would bounce all 48 tracks down to 2 tracks on this one multi. And everything was in perfect balance, and everything was when we went in, I was in Amsterdam, and we raised the faders, and we put them all on a line, and we hit play. Well, I think we just panned stuff. Neil Dorfman is the name I've been trying to pull to my head, who did Brothers in Arms with Dire Straits. Neil Dorfman and I started Hysteria. And one night when the band went home, he turns to me and he says, hey, you want to hear the most amazing thing? And I'm like, yeah, what? And he's like, you want to hear Photograph? Wow. And I thought, it's like one of my favorite songs, and so we have the 24 track. He throws the 24 track up, and I'm thinking, wow, this is all in 24 track? And he just goes, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And like the whole drum kit was on, everything was in stereo pairs. Huh. And he literally he puts everything at 0 and hits play. And the entire, what you hear on that song was there. I mean, the rides were done, everything, even the sounds were done. So he did that. It's kind of a Bruce, I have heard Bruce Swedien kind of works that way with, when he used to do Michael Jackson. They would take multi-tracks and bounce the multi-tracks down to another multi-track, And then if, let's say the backing vocals, it was 3-part harmony, it was in stereo, if they needed, once they got to mixing, if they needed to go back and change that balance, they just pull up that multi-track again and readjust the balance and bounce it back over to, it was a lot easier to deal with, 24 faders in front of you than it would be to deal with, 90s, especially when you're dealing with analog. Yeah, you can lock, but locking sometimes could take up to 10 or 15 seconds back in the early days to lock 2 tape machines. And that got really tedious when you'd wind back and you'd hit play and literally wait 15 seconds for the green light to go to show you that they were both in sync. Wow. Yikes. So to bounce it all down was really smart. And when I heard that record, I was like, my jaw dropped. I was like, holy shit. The backing vocals, I soloed them and I'm like, unbelievable. I mean, what you hear on the record, it's like 48 tracks of backing vocals. Seriously, it's like 48 tracks. It's all in stereo. It was just amazing. So Mutt Lange, got to be, really intense in that respect, layering, right? But I mean, some of the stuff you worked on was probably like 100 tracks.
Well, I only did one project with him that was Pro Tools, and that got pretty intense because it was so many playlists and 128 channels.
Yeah, okay. Well, that tells people kind of where he was going.
Yeah, so prior to that, it was like you said, though, it was things like the Night Slave Reel.
Yeah.
24 tracks of vocals.
Right.
It bounced, like you said, so that
Right.
it still ended up on 24 tracks of submixes.
Exactly.
So you could go back and redo the submixes.
Exactly.
But, the thing about Larry, he was always pleasant about it.
He was. He had
Even
a
though
wonderful.
he'd be, so meticulous,
Yeah.
he'd spend all day doing one minuscule little thing.
Absolutely.
He was very pleasant, and so.
Yeah, very pleasant and very patient.
Yeah.
Incredibly patient. More patience than I really had. I would find, by the time, I think when I was mixing for those about to rock, after the first day, I thought I had it. I thought for sure I had nailed it. I'm like, this is fine. And he was like, well, let's leave it up till tomorrow. And I thought, yeah, I guess. Yeah. We got the luxury to leave it up and check it tomorrow morning. And then we'll put it to bed and we'll move on, right? Well, we'll check it tomorrow. So tomorrow, the next day would come, and we would whittle away very meticulously at something, and Monday would turn into a Tuesday, would turn into Wednesday, would turn into Thursday. And I would go, shit, man, I had this song 4 days ago.
Is it better?
You start losing. Better becomes so subjective. It's like it's slightly different. Is it better? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's slightly different, but I think part of me used to feel like I was kind of going in circles a little bit because we changed one thing, and then that obviously would mean we'd have to change something else, and I'd go, it was kind of sounding better to me before, but then 4 hours later, you don't even want to open up Pandora's box and say, I think it was better 4 or 5 hours ago, because it's like, then he'd go, then he'd go, well, maybe it was. Maybe we should go back to what you had. And I'd be like, oh, fuck. I've changed like 20 things, I don't know that we're at the point of no return. But interesting, interesting how every producer that I've worked with, they all have their eccentricities and they all have their little quirks. I think in the overall picture, every single guy that you ever go in the studio with always has the best intentions. Everybody that's ever in a control room in a recording situation, whether it's Nashville or Los Angeles or New York or London or anywhere, absolutely everybody on that session, whether he's a player or an engineer or a producer, always has absolutely the best intentions and wants to try and get the best of whatever it is we're doing. If it's a drum track, let's experiment and get the best drum track, or whatever it happens to be, it's a mix. Let's squeeze this lemon till it's dry. Let's try it. Yes, we're up to 30 mixes, but maybe 31 is the one.